I'm just trying to get to March.
All right, it is 6 o'clock on Monday, January 22nd, 2024. I'd like to call this City Council Workshop meeting for the City of Montgomery, Texas. In the session at this time, we have every council member present, myself, Mr. Corkadale, Mr. Palmer are here. We have some visitors with us here pertinent to workshop items here, and Chief of Police is here. So with that, are you well prepared and safe? And Mr. Palmer, I'll turn it over to you.
Mayor, we go to number 1, presentation of proposed 86.45 acre single-family residential development by Morning Cloud Investments, Solid Ridge Development. Ms. Fox is here to present. I'll turn it over to take it away.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Just another introduction. I was here a year or so ago on another project, and we're excited to have this opportunity to come back to you. We've got builders, that one that had some issues with cost and timing, and builders kept knocking on the door saying, we need lots, we need lots. And so we kept driving and found a couple of other sites under contract. So again, as a reminder for new council members, I'm Marjorie Cox with a real estate development company, 40-year history with a family company, and I work for commercial real estate companies like CBRE and Colonel Crow Company and the City of Houston, and have that experience, and I'm partner with Vance Bridges.
I have a civil construction company. We're kind of North Conroe. We do developments like this and other little improvements and things like that.
So we've worked together on one other project in Conroe, Canyon Creek. So we were the developer of Canyon Creek that was initially developed by another developer. We picked up 35 acres and developed the remainder 3 sections. And our company did the development on that and built out 2 sections, and Vance's company finished that up. So we've worked together in the past and enjoy having that strengths of one another to be able to work together and look at other projects. So these are 2 tracks in Montgomery. They just both happen to be available as listings at the same time. And then this is on Old Auburn Road. We kind of have that as a placeholder name for the development, but we'll come up with something unique to the project and unique to Montgomery. But right now, Old Auburn Road development, 86 acres. So one of the 2 tracks has been used for agricultural purposes, so for grazing cattle. And it is opposite of the Montgomery High School tennis courts. So that this is the access to the property just across the street from the tennis courts and field house and those athletic fields. And the second tract abuts it to the rear, and that is a 41-acre tract. And it's currently owned by the Stowe family. I think someone mentioned Mr. Stowe. And that's 41 acres, so altogether it's 86 acres, and that's used as a homestead. Very lovely home overlooking a very nice detention pond. And then they've got some outbuildings, some barns, and some other neighbors in the area. So again, for 86 acres, right, we've got a preliminary land plan. Wild Engineering has been our partner on this project, and they've got a preliminary land plan of about 326 lots. We'll have to make some adjustments to that as we go forward. We've got to place a utility line easement, and then we will shift some streets a little bit so that we have connectors to other property. But initially, it's a little bit over 300 lots, and we've got it's a preliminary land plan, 50-foot lots, 50 by 110 and 50 by 120. One of the 2 tracts is within the city, and that's subject to the city zoning of 9,000 square feet, the R1 zoning, and the other tract is within the ETJ. So we would look to see about an annexation of that tract and discussion of the lot size and how that fit into what the city needs in terms of meeting housing needs. as we go forward. We've got, so that's, you'll see the section that's not highlighted, and that's within the outside of the city limits, so that's the portion that would need to be annexed into the city.
Jerry, can you drag the bar to the left on the bottom? There you go.
So, and then part of this part here is already within the city limits. And it's just some more details on the development, 86 acres, and so there's access from Old Auburn Road and from Huffman Street. Ideally, if we move forward, we would start on the Old Auburn Road side and work towards the Huffman Street side. And there are two tracks, one is an ag and then one is been used as a homestead. We hadn't decided about the house. We'd certainly like to keep the house. We potentially would carve out the house about 2 acres and sell it. Another option would be to use it for a community center. Another option, depending on how the county's major thoroughfare plan is aligned with streets in that area. There's right now a street that would go right over the house, so we'll just have to see if there's a way to realign that street. But it's a beautiful home, has a great aesthetics, and it looks over to the detention pond, and it's really, really pretty. So we potentially would have 300 or more houses in the price range of upper 300s to upper 400s, so 400 to 450. And then this would bring tax value into the city of Montgomery, and the MISD and Montgomery County, and the hospital district and emergency services district of about 120 to 130 million. So right now we're planning for a timeline of about 1 year to go through the planning process and engineering, and then up to a year in construction, and then homeowners or home builders would be building. So it could be completed within 2028. And here's our preliminary planning plan. Again, this is all subject to a few changes once the engineering firm completes their feasibility study and capacity study, and we'll make those adjustments as we go forward and have a final version over the next couple of months.
Where's that house marker?
It is right here. So this is the kind of the cutoff of the property here. So this house accesses it through Huffman around here, and here's the driveway of the house, and here's the house, here's the detention, and then here's the 46-acre tract along here. So there's a little cutout here, right here, and they, will be providing access to them. Certainly, if others have an interest in selling, we could add that to the development, but that's where we are now. This is along the railroad. So one thing that we're thinking in terms of is to have a buffer along the railroad, just so there's a bit of a spacing between the railroad and the housing. Right now that could be a buffer of 30 feet, but somewhere between 20 and 30 feet. And then we would have some walking trails throughout around it. We've got 3 detention ponds, and that's about 7 acres total. So if we come in these different sections, we would start with, 100 lights here, that detention, and then a second phase, and then a third phase, and then have amenities like walking trails, potentially, if we had that within the tree buffer, along the detentions, and then the home with that, depending on the cost and how all the costs, come together, that could be either something we sell or something that we use as an amenity for the community there as a neighborhood community area. We'll see how our costs come out. So, and here's some amenities. Again, if the lot sizes range subject to variance, 50 by 110, 50 by 120 is how it's laid out now. The 3 detention basins, walking trails, and here's a park that Bridges Construction has completed in other communities. So this would be similar to a park that we would bring to the community.
It's over in Woodland Hills. We've done a bunch of stuff in Woodland Hills over the years.
And so we went under contract at the end of the year, and were able to get in and meet with the planning department pretty quickly in December and January, and held our pre-development meeting to talk about, our concepts and how that could fit in with the city, and kind of get lined up in the timeline with the city planning and engineering departments to move forward. This was a great opportunity to be able to meet with you all in a workshop session and talk about the project so that we could get your feedback early on and incorporate that, get your input on the development, then also see if this development would work in with your planning, just in terms of we do need a variance for lot size, and if there are other items that we would seek to have as a variance within the development agreement. So this is a good time to be able to get your input before we get too far along in the project. So, and you know, if we go forward, if you all think that it would be a good concept, and you go forward with an escrow agreement, so that the city would engage WGA in the economic and feasibility study. That would all happen over the next 30 to 45 days. So we would have some really good information in the next month or so to be able to know if it's a feasible project for us financially. We've got 2 builders lined up, more information later, but we've got a couple of builders who are really interested in the project. And so what would go within that development agreement would be to annex one of the 2 tracks that's currently outside of the city limits. And then if there's capacity, the agreement would allow for the provision of those utilities to the project. And then if we're able to look at a discussion of variance of the lot size, I know that's something that has come up before on other projects, and certainly look for input on that. And then for this project, the creation of a public improvement district, and we'll talk more about that, just in terms of what that cost is and the reimbursement for that. So here's the area for annexation. And that would just expand the city footprint, that 46 acres. The feasibility study would be for the WGA to determine utilities, and here's going to be an outline of the 2 property ownerships. And then the lot size variance, the 1 tract is subject to the R1 zoning, which is the 75 by 120 or 9,000 square foot lots. The other tract would be subject to zoning once annexed, if annexed. And then if we request a variance to 50-foot lots, I've done some research within HAR Tempo today to kind of give you some insight into availability of houses and values, and I'll go over that in just a minute. I know, I think it's very beneficial for the city and city council and the planning department to be able to determine if there's a variance, so that you all can kind of control which developments, if any, would be subject to a variance, you know, just in terms of lot size, since you've got the zoning in place already. And a public improvement district, we talked about this on the last project we looked at. This is something that other cities within Montgomery County, like Conroe and Tomball and Magnolia, have done. I know Montgomery has one for like a commercial development, but this allows for, as the city has already invested in water plants and wastewater facilities and stormwater, the developers come in and they construct the water lines, sanitary lines, and we maintain that for a year and then turn that over to the city, because they're developed and constructed to the city standards. And we have a 1-year maintenance bond, and then those become the property of the city. And then the residents of the service area would pay a fee to be able to reimburse the developer for those costs, and that fee is capped at 25 years. So a MUD fee, and it goes in perpetuity for water services and sanitary services, and sometimes stormwater, and then this would be capped at 25 years. And the service districts are managed by the local government code, so that's a state statute, it's within the state constitution. There's several ways that those reimbursements, in order for cities and counties to encourage development within their jurisdiction. So those also often come in a MUD, municipal utility district, a special purpose district, or a public improvement district. And since this property is within the city of Conroe, the city of Montgomery, and the ETJ, that would be the only vehicle for those reimbursements. And there's a list of 13 PIDs within Montgomery County. It just as a reference. So again, Vance Bridges, Marjorie Cox, were native to the area. My parents moved here 30 years ago in Del Lago, and so we've enjoyed Lake Conroe, and I've lived in Montgomery County since 2005. It's in Walker County in Huntsville area. And has had his contracting business for over 20 years. The project that we mentioned, some recent photos of Canyon Creek, and it's similar to this project that we're looking at, just in terms of size of lots, 50-foot lots and square foot. The homes are about 2,000 to 2,200 square feet. The completed project, home builder on this, one of the home builders maybe would be Ashton Woods, and they're a private home builder based in Atlanta, Georgia, and operations in the southeast and southwest. Second largest private home builder and 14th overall in the U.S. They build in other cities and jurisdictions within the Houston market, Conroe, Montgomery, Willis, Magnolia, and Humble and Houston. And here's a couple sample of their home building in Imperial Oaks over in Spring. So, you know, just to give a kind of a tie to something local and close proximity. And here's some completed homes in that same development. So just a before and after, just to get a sense of what the completed homes look like. I know some concerns of often in these new developments may be related to parking and cars and how many cars in the street. And I try to get some photos where just on a midday there were no cars in the street. I guess everybody's at work, but there were just weren't any cars in driveways and streets, and so we can certainly try to manage those similar expectations going forward. So here's the milestone, the timing. So we've started the feasibility meeting here with City Council to get some input on the project, and then if it's going forward, to have WGA present their feasibility study for the city to see about the capacity of utilities. And then we would make any adjustment to the lane plan, and cost it out, and do some other engineering studies, drainage studies, phase one environmental, and move forward with a development agreement mid-year, and updated land plan, final land plan, and then the construction, engineering docs and construction. So some development variables just relate to the ultimate cost of the project, capacity of utilities and those costs. It's feasible at this structure, but we'll see. There are other projects that you all have looked at and are going, in the planning phase and construction phase. So just to see how the city's capacity is at this point, just in terms of plants and I know we know you're adding some lines, upsizing some lines in the area as well. And so, a feature that we would like to see would be to have a public improvement district. And there's some photos of the property, the two tracks, on Old Dobbin Road, on the railroad track there, and the high school across from that. And then,
Can you go back, was that north to the left? Where's the high school?
So here's the high school.
I'm trying to get
And
right.
here's would be 105 along here.
Okay.
And, I think the city of Montgomery had engaged or worked with groups a few years ago for the Montgomery, Texas Comprehensive Plan 2020. So in 2017, it was identified that the cost of living in Montgomery was higher just because there was very limited housing at that time. And that the writers of the report, in conjunction with the city leaders, had focused on the fact that affordable housing would be important to the overall vitality of the community, and that there would be a demand for 500 units over 20 years, and that in order to meet this demand, there would need to be overlay zones for a variety of lot sizes and housing types to give citizens more choices. And the city would continue to see demand as long as Montgomery's population grows. Some recommendations were to have new homes that are connected to the historic district. This is close to that, to promote community connection, and that cities that have affordable housing discover that it improves the quality of life for residents by growing the community fabric for adequate jobs, financial stability, security, population diversity. So a number of multifamily units have been added, over the last 5 years. I know there's the build-to-rent Walden Road, just outside of the city coverage area, and that provided some rental options for residents. But in terms of ownership within the city, or even within the Montgomery City ETJ, there are the other planned unit developments at Hills of County Creek were developed in 2017 to 2022. Those were 50-foot lot sizes, house sizes of 1,200 to 1,600 square feet. The last section, I think, as large as 2,000 square foot. Over the last 12 months, there were 11 sales in this development. The average size was 1,614 square feet. The average value, $284,000. You know that there's planning for another project, Redbird Meadow, and that's 388 acres of 555 lots. And the lot sizes on that planned development, I think, start at 60 feet, 85, and 110 feet. And I would project that values would start at 500,000 or more. And looking at the active listings, there are no available listings for this price point in Montgomery at this point. And the active listings in Montgomery up to the edge of the Conroe ETJ, there are 32 listings. The average square foot of the house is 3,421, so 3,400 square feet. Average value of those listings, 691,000. So, you know, we think with the average house size of 2,000 to 2,200 square feet, and the upper 300s to upper 400s, around 400,000 to 450 on average, this would kind of fit into, you know, a niche. So if families start out at Hills of County Creek, they have a place to grow into, and then eventually grow into other larger, higher value homes. So Dave, just any questions?
So Dave, how many houses, how many lots do you have approved right now that are 40 or 50 foot?
Total 40-50-foot lots, we've got, so it's 309 and 682.
Yeah, it's 309 in Montgomery Bend, Pulte, on 1097. Hills of Town Creek that's coming back, section 5, that's another 75 lots.
So what are we adding up here? So we got,
So at 375 is around numbers.
375 already.
And
On
then,
that side.
yeah, Redbird is going to be a mixture.
But they don't ever drop below 60.
Correct.
Redbirds are all 60 and
60 is the smallest, 60 up to 90s or 80s.
60s, 70s, and 80s.
So we have a significant amount compared to smaller lots already.
Yeah.
how many was total in Redbird?
669.
669 total
Just for Redbird.
for Redbird. Those are above 60 plus,
Correct. So about 375 that are either 45 or 50s.
50 or less.
And then one more that's going to be coming back in the near future, the developers reach back out. It's the 80 or so acres on Lone Star Parkway on the north side, east of Buffalo Springs. The council previously approved a variance for that, 45s, back in, I think, 21. They might be coming back as well.
Okay, that was on the Peel property?
Next to,
Next to the Peel property.
Next to.
Maywood?
no,
Yeah, I wonder what happened to that, because they had egress issues there.
correct.
So I have a question. Huffman Street is not a real street, and the Cowboy Church, they exit out Huffman Street, and would that all be closed off? And where are the Lopez's? Are they going to be able to, they go down Huffman Street too, don't they? Eddie Lopez?
Know where the Lopez is, they're right behind Charlie.
So there were, that's the middle tracks, the hole in the donut, right about right, yeah. And so they've got, you know, we've been told that there's an easement. I haven't seen the documents, but we know we would provide access to them. So that's where we, you know, subject to talking, you know, looking at the major thoroughfare plan for the county. So that's one reason some of these streets may shift. So we would eventually have to give them some access. So that may not change for several years if we start on the west side and move east. So
And the cowboy church, from Mr. Stowe, just kind of took over that road. I'm sure you heard about that.
Yeah.
Oh, there's been a lot of muffins. And so all of that,
Because they're all 105.
yeah, so that's what I'm going to say. It really does help alleviate, because there's only one way in, one way out on 105. And it's a sizable church with multiple, so that back access has been helpful, but I know that they haven't been willing to pay for road. And since they share, like different owners share different sides of the road, each side of the road, it's been challenging for them and them.
Is this property over into the road, or is it?
Well, it looks like it's south of the road, like the road, that's the right road you see, but
I think it was saying that.
There's nowhere near enough information.
But it's not a real right of way. Well, I think it's called a right of way, but we can wait if it becomes a road in our development.
well, he's wanted the city to redo the road and it's private property, it's not a real road, and he had a buddy that's commissioner of the sign. So, we can't even, it's been, I've dealt with it quite a bit, so. And then the Catholic Church refuses to, I guess, help up with it, and then the other neighbors.
What's the charter of the Catholic Church?
So here's my problem, right? So we have very little information as far as what your build lines will be, how wide your streets are gonna be. You're asking for a variance on a picture.
Yeah, this is just kind of the first phase of the concept, so I know we'll come back to city council later. And then I think we've got 60-foot streets in the planning.
60 foot?
60 foot.
She's talking right away.
Right.
That's why it's 105, get out.
Correct. Well, right.
So how wide are the streets actually?
Were they 28?
28.
Whatever the city, I don't think we're asking for a variance on streets, whatever the.
The preliminary discussions with their engineer was 60-foot right of way and 28-foot wide streets, which is what all required. So they were.
Sidewalks, no sidewalks.
There would be sidewalks on both sides of the street.
Talk about the building lines real quick. So Casey had a question on, kind of, if we're talking about a 50-foot lot, or we're talking about a 5-foot. I ran with the assumption that you were thinking 5-foot building line. If you're talking about a 50-foot lot, because
Right, I think 5 feet on each side and what, 25 in the front?
our current standard is 10 on the side. So anytime we see these small lots, that's been one of the pieces that we have to wrestle with is also the building line and what are the implications there.
And so there's the thing, our inventory of small lots, we have almost 400 approved and ready, already in the pipeline of lots of this size.
I think that a big concern would be also is the accessibility in the road with the Redbird going in. I know it's a different road behind the school, but still it's going back up to those.
High density.
It's going to tie into that and,
Well, the other problem, right, is on that high school road, and I don't know if you got, I had kids in high school getting in and out of there during mornings and evenings, but
I guess how far out is the major thoroughfare plan? Do we have is there a slide of that at all?
We don't have that on the slide. Certainly.
You kind of show where
Yeah, so
we were going to try to accommodate that.
the major thoroughfare plan that's adopted by the county has that north-south road that lines up with Womack and then Westway at the top of Napa. There's a little bit of a jog. There's also an east-west road, really from this, getting from that thoroughfare back to 149. So that's one thing that they would have to consider, as well as working with the county and the railroad to see what kind of option there is for this ever getting connected through. All the way up to the Lone Star Parkway.
All of that is still probably at least 3 years.
Oh, you know what I mean? So this doesn't, they can definitely obviously have control from whatever proposed parkway is to Old Plantersville, but from getting to Old Plantersville to 149, which is not on this property, and from, the northern boundary to 140 to 105.
right. But if the county comes in and says, yeah, we'll knock that cul-de-sac at the bottom and just take your road,
Right.
who wants to live on a main thoroughfare?
And that was what some of the land planning discussions was, putting it on the backside, potentially over here, and shortening lots and doing some other options, but
Try to leave it backyard lots just to try to accommodate for it.
And so this could be shifted over, that the plans for the major thoroughfare plan could go along the back. Right now, it's set to kind of go through here, through the Locust property, up to connect to Westway. So this is a good chance for the city to try to tie into the right of way, so, you know, however the design would work. But, you're right, the residents potentially may not want to do that. That would be some of the changes or tweaks that could occur in the land plan. So, but just in terms of the lot size, so I know you've got 45s and 50s kind of already approved, and then Redbird would be a larger project with 60s, 80s, and 110. So what sort of price point, the 45 to 50-foot lots in other communities are around the low 200s? And I think Redbird would be 500 plus, so do you have any
So that's the
home
thing, our
value?
40s and 50s in our area, there's nothing in the low 200s.
Not anymore.
Mhm.
It was 3 years ago, but not anymore.
Nothing. Everything's high 200s to 3.
Yep.
Right, and so that would be the hills of Town Creek?
Right.
So I think the average last year, but in the last 12 months, was in that 284, right, it was 284.
Yeah, 2 of us live over there.
Okay.
The council, so
You
we
got
got,
it.
yeah, we got an idea.
So again, so then the question is, how are you meeting the needs of 300 to 450? Do you have any homes in that price point?
Yeah, I'm looking at HAR right now. I've got a whole bunch. There's a neighborhood off of Lone Star Parkway that's got 12 houses, and they're ranging from 361 to 469, 467.
That's K-Hawk
The brand new
Canyon.
neighborhood that's at Buffalo Springs and Lone Star Parkway.
That's K-Hawk Canyon, and that's one of the builders that we've been talking to as well. So that's 11 listings, and then you pull in the $1 million homes a little bit east of that, on Green Harbor and those areas. That's what swings the value, average price to $691.
Right.
So the projects that we've looked at here and previously would be similar to what the K-Hawk houses that you just pulled up on HAR. That's one of our builders.
That is,
That's your Westway Drive, they were told that to your.
yeah.
Would there be any compromise on the size of the lots?
Yes, ma'am. So that's what we're here to talk about, and we can go back to the drafting board and see if it's a feasible project, for us.
That's the feedback we, in general, have been hit with in the last couple of years, especially from local developers, that we have accelerated the skewing down to a point that it could be detriment. I think just the numbers that were shared with 500 homes, 20 years, and what we've done in 2 years
Right.
says that as it is. And so we get that, and we've heard, and we toyed around beckoning for 75-foot lots and just sticking with it for as long as we need to, whatever that is. But that's the general consensus I'm getting from the people in my city.
And I think that's one thing they recommended to us was maybe a blend, when we got the first preliminary land plan from Lyle, they were all in the 50s, but we can go back and see how we can expand to a blend. Would that be something that would be
So no
acceptable?
matter what you do, 5-foot build lines are absolutely no with me. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
So it's
whatever you gotta
10
do.
feet between the two homes?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a must.
Okay.
So 10 feet off the build line, so you're looking at 15 to 20 feet minimum between your homes,
Yes.
right? So if you wanted to skew your lot size, me personally, how they decide is up to them. I'm more inclined to let you shorten the lot and make you keep it wider
Okay.
to keep the space between the homes. But I know when you're dealing with flats, it's not necessarily conducive.
Is that at the hills of Town Creek? Are they 50-foot lots? Is there 5 on each side of each home for a total of 10?
Is it Stan? I think it is. Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Which one did we approve? We did one with 5 foot no buffer, but we made it put the air conditioners in the back.
Pulte and Redbird are both the same way.
Well, Redbird's minimum, but he has to fix his up, remember? He
Right,
had to
there's
get 5 foot
20,
main lines.
I think 20%
Yeah.
of the lot lines have to be created.
Yes.
15 feet between
Yeah.
the homes.
Yeah.
So 7.5 on each, 7.5 foot build on each lot.
Yeah.
5 and
Yeah.
7.
Okay, I can do that. Okay.
So, yeah, so the ones that we did, which, because they already had a whole bunch already, so they just built the same. We made a move. There could be nothing in the sidewalk, nothing.
Okay. And the ACs were in the back. By the covenants, the POA restrictions.
Well, it's through to get their
Right, they're-
variance.
I have the development agreement,
Okay.
so in order for them to have that 5-foot side yard, there can't be anything
Okay.
in that side yard.
Okay, that's how it was documented.
There could be the possibility there's going to be a 5 on one side of the house and then a 10 on the other side of the house.
That would give us 15 foot, basically 7.5 feet up build lines. Yes. Better than 5 foot. My problem with 5 foot, and you have pictures of them,
Uh-huh.
put an air conditioner there and drive a lawnmower past it.
Yeah.
Push a lawnmower past it. Turn sideways and try to walk past it. Yeah, it's just,
It's tight.
it's just tight, yeah. It's very, very tight, and we have a lot of that already.
I think all those are really valid things too, but my concern a lot is the city road itself.
And the traffic there being in that location.
The city road is not,
Coming out of the high school.
Yes.
the high school and on
And
that
that goes down, yeah.
It's the road is at the very best not good.
There are lanes to like that.
We already have traffic problems out. We have traffic problems.
Is it, I think, is it, I think it's,
Old Flemingville on the east side is a city road. Old Dog Flemingville on the west side is a county road.
a lot of yours. Okay.
So is the Catholic church right there? Is that?
Yeah.
No, that's the high school.
Yes.
No, the high school's to the left.
Oh, okay.
That's just Cowboy Church.
Yeah,
And then the trailer park.
Right.
Oh, that's some-
The high school is over there.
So where's the other outlet? I'm trying to figure out where you're.
So one's by the high school and one's on the curve on,
So right now, the home is accessed through a driveway that comes up through here.
And there's a trailer park right at the
And
side.
there's a, yes.
There's a trailer park.
the entrance would be over here to the right and then the other entrance would be over there.
So that's subject to the engineering, so I don't know, typically, the main entrance would be here. And this could be a secondary or emergency entrance, it just depends on how many units are required to have, a secondary entrance.
Is it gated?
It's not gated.
So it's not gated, but really technically only one way in and out.
Well, unless it ties into a major thoroughfare plan, that's how it's eventually designed after we collaborate with the engineers. But it's not really aesthetically pleasing entrance right now. Things may change over the course of a few years, so.
So as a staff, that prime entrance would really need to have a light somewhat similar to Emma's Way coming out front side of that school, right?
Yeah, they would have to do it at analysis, because that's a lot of homes in one spot.
Yeah.
A lot of vehicles in one spot.
It'd be hard to get in and out.
So, I mean, when you think about Renberg, so they'll have 3 entrances, and then they turn lanes and widen, and it opens at that way. This is onto the county street, so, it's very similar to Redbird as you would, it would be presumable that they would be looking something similar as far as some turbulence, but, mixture of the county and city.
We're gonna have to deal with Dobbin Plannersville for any water.
Thank you.
That was part of the settlement of this area.
The original settlement.
Marjorie, now,
Do you
there's a whole lot
really
to do
not-
about it. Is there any concern about the train tracks running right behind those houses?
It's interesting, we put this in front of builders, or has any interest, and then if you keep going along 2854 towards Conroe, there are new developments, like Raven Chapel Road, right on the railroad. It's just the same kind of distance as this project, but So we're looking for a buffer of 20 feet or 30 feet.
Is it pretty, I guess, can you zoom in on the railroad now? The kind of current land plan shows to tear down some of those trees. I think we're gonna try to rework it and leave all the trees next to the road not tear down any of them. And then not have lots that back up to the railroad and shift the road where you have a tree buffer and a street and a street in the front yard.
No, that makes sense.
I don't, I mean, the houses on Raven Chapel are not 400, 450, are they, that are on the railroad?
Well, I think it's about on the other side, south of 2054, they, MH, I can't remember which building that is, MH9 maybe, but yeah, so it's in that general area. And I don't know what those, I haven't driven through there to look at the size and value, because they were,
So there's a lot of lots there, 450,000 for a lot on the railroad.
you know, I lived in the city of Houston, and I drive, and I see houses like 5 or 10 feet.
That's why they're moving here.
Oh, God. I turn around like, Leslie, and like,
Branches over here.
well, I think it's just that in migration from other states to the country, there's just no room to put. Everybody moving to Texas thanks to the governor and all the big city mayors and, economic development and corporate relocations. They have to find housing somewhere.
If we did shift that road over too and not have houses on the south side of it, it would kind of be more of a main drive. You wouldn't really have cars parking on both sides. It would maybe a little more easier in and out of the neighborhood.
How many lots are down that? Like, is there a way to take that out and just pull that road?
We kind of shifted around with some more cul-de-sacs and we'll lose lots, but I think it would be better for the project overall.
But you're still gonna have the 20, 30-foot barrier, right?
Yes.
Regardless.
Let it be green space, yeah.
They're beautiful trees.
Right.
They hate to have them torn down, so it creates, it's a natural buffer. They're already there, it kind of creates a natural buffer.
To
As
answer
is.
your question, Sarah, so it's called Lone Star Landing, so further down 2054, close to Lone Star Elementary. Those are about 1,500 square feet, and they're listed between 290 and 315.
Where's that at, Chris?
It's called Lone Star Landing by Lone Star Elementary, over on 2854 on the south side. You cross right across the rail
Is that
tracks.
one?
I think
Okay.
that's what that everyone was referring to.
Okay. I'm sorry, okay.
And that is in line.
And they're close to the railroad tracks too. right?
They are. Same concept, kind of what y'all were talking about, where there's a tree buffer, a road, and then it's the back of the homes. So there's a little bit extra space.
So a mixture of sizes of lots.
And they wouldn't drop below 50?
We have no plans to drop below 50. So mixture of lot size, so the setback line, I think is more important than the lot size. I mean, is that kind of one
Well, I mean, that's the
pain
thing.
point? Yeah, yeah.
It dictates your lot size when you say,
Exactly.
hey, you can't put, kind of.
Right, other developments typically had a 40-foot house on a 50-foot lot. Yeah, so,
Yeah, and just for, in my opinion, transparency, I mean, when the resident was coming up, I heard a lot from our constituents that they don't want the small lot size, they don't want their tire, they're cool for it. And I think y'all up here have heard that as well.
Yes.
so we say mixture of 50 and 60, do we push it up beyond that?
I like 70.
Yeah.
So,
But we're getting a lot of those on the Redbird. Have they given you any indication of the value of the homes that will be built here?
He's all over
Those
the
larger
place.
lots?
That
It
guy's,
changes every time I talk to
yeah,
them.
I believe this much that he talks about, so.
I would think they'd have to start at 500 and maybe up even at a 110-foot lot over, I don't know, $1 million, but I know.
Well, the kicker to it is, developers will say, well, people in this area use this price home. What I've seen is that they're not even advertising these new developments in the state of Texas. They advertise them in other
In
states.
California.
Yeah.
holding company.
The builders?
Yes,
That's who owns a lot of these over here.
yeah, they had advertised in California, they advertised it here, and say, look at the house you can buy, this is how much it is.
Yeah, those REITs that come in a 5 volume. Well, our builders that we talked to on the other project, Ashton Woods, Kayhoff Mannion, Kayhoff was concerned they're gonna finish up with their project there. Ashton Woods is over in Spring and Imperial Oaks, so, he had a 2,000 square foot, 2,200 square foot home. We'll certainly go back in and work with Lyle to kind of expand lots, 50s, and give us, or say 55 plus, and then see if we can get, get to a larger lot with those building lines between the two houses. And so the width is more important than the depth. So,
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
yeah, okay, yeah. And then just in terms of, so we'll rework the land plan and see if we can make that work, and then shift some roads so that we have that tree buffer. We're still, waiting to see what the costs come out to decide about the house, whether that's something that's sold, or whether that's something that could be used as an amenity for the development. And the one variable, if we lose, 50 or 100 lots because we make larger lots. So the one variable that would allow us to continue with the project would be the PID. So how do you all feel about the public improvement district with that fee to reimburse the infrastructure cost? And that would be capped at 25 years.
So, Chris, what is the infrastructure of this estimate? What would it cost?
We have not gone that far. But as far as the city would go, they would pay the normal impact fees. So let's call it $3,800 per lot. Then also likely what they would be looking at is water line upsizing. So right now Redbird is upsizing all the way down to here. So looking at least in future phases upsizing so we can complete that larger loop. And then they will likely also have a lift station that they will need to install because it's very shallow gravity right here. And the nearest gravity is at 105, so they'll likely be looking at that as well.
So, just a quick math on your PID, they're looking at 14, around 14 million based on the plan now, 25 years. And reimbursement.
It's not the number I've come up with. It's not the number I've come
No,
up with.
I just did the math. How much was it?
About 1750?
A home per year, for
Yes.
25 years.
Yes,
25 times 1750 times 300, 14 million.
okay.
Um,
And then
That's
the
why I
net present
remember the
value of
cost.
that is less than half of that. So if you run an NPV calculation, time value of money.
And that PID would also go to pay for the interior improvements, so interior public roads,
Oh,
water.
yeah, our
So just plus, because anything that's public, so it would be capped at that. So, without running any numbers, they might have, an additional
35
cost
million in
estimates.
those costs, so that reimburses that. So all the water lines and sanitary lines, the storm, we build, and then those are turned over to the city, so that reimburses that cost.
We're gonna have to make any kind of infrastructure improvements because this subdivision, it's gonna change Redbird, we already have plans for Redbird. Is that gonna be in this?
No, so the changes that Redbird are making don't necessarily impact this development. So it'll benefit, so that water line that they'll construct would benefit this development because they can tie into it. As far as, large capital plant improvements, all those are kind of the collection of impact fees, and y'all started that process to get the RFQ out for engineering for the wastewater plant. So everyone's paying into that. Pulte's paid in. What we would likely recommend on this development agreement is, as you did for Redbird and Pulte, that is a upfront payment of impact fees when they plat. So when they plat the first section, they would pay that full amount of impact fees for that section versus waiting for the connection to help with the cash flow.
doesn't seem to be any problem with that part of it. You heard the concerns of the other part. Is everybody good with this? Do we, any other questions?
What are the red areas?
The detention ponds?
Those will all be ponds?
Yes. For stormwater.
So other than the ponds, there's no green space?
There's around the ponds, will be green space, and then the buffer for the railroad, and then the park, some recreation.
Maybe 7 or 8 sizable lots, triangles throughout. And we can plant some more when we finish with the final land plan, but there's some corner lots, and we'll try to have some amenities in those.
That don't meet kind of a lot size, they're,
What's our regulations on green space for so many houses?
So we've got a compensating open space requirement that says that if you build a 9,000 square foot lot, you need 0 open space to accompany that. But
Okay.
if you ask the city and the city lets you build a 6,000 square foot lot, you need 3,000 square feet worth of open space somewhere to compensate.
Gotcha.
So it's a 1-to-1 for the reduction below the minimum lot size you need for the green space.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering, because these would be under the 9,000.
Right, so we would have the option to be either a variance of some sort that accompanies that, or hey, here's how you meet the map, and we're showing you guys and approving the map that there's the open space to allow for this.
Any other questions? All right, thank
Thank you
you.
all for your time.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 2, presentation and review of city engineers on the Pepper Sidewalk project.
All right, so last time at council, a couple weeks ago, we brought the release of the warranty period, or release of the maintenance bond and ending of the warranty period for the Pepper Sidewalk project. At the time, there were some concerns brought up over some cracks in the sidewalk, and so what I sent out to you earlier today, but it's also printed in front of you, in case you didn't have a chance to look at it, are photos from during construction that show the rebar that was placed for the reinforcements, and then some of, but not all of, the testing reports that came back. We had Terracon is a third-party lab. They do a lot of the testing for our projects. And so they do their construction materials testing in the lab. And they did about 20 or so different tests. Anytime there was a concrete pour, they were on site testing the concrete before it was poured. I grabbed a batch handful of them at random, really. And so they all tests passed on this concrete. So one thing that I wanted to note to you guys is in our specs, they were required to do a 3,500 PSI concrete. Contractor elected on their own to put in a 4,000 PSI concrete. All of the testing reports came back above 4,000 PSI at 28 days, except for one came back at 3,750, which again is still above our 3,500 minimum PSI. The cracks that y'all brought up last time, they were cracks that we noted at the one-year warranty inspection. At the time of the inspection, we had them go back and either seal the cracks, or if they were bad enough, we had them remove and replace the panel itself. And so for over about 1,450 feet worth of sidewalk in the project, about 5% of the length of panels had to be touched in some way, and less than 1% had to be removed and replaced. So we had one panel that was completely removed and replaced, and then 2 that were saw cut and partially removed and replaced, and the rest of the cracks were sealed. I know you were also concerned about some of the reasons for the cracks. A lot of it was shrinkage cracking because of the drought. And that can start at the construction joints. It doesn't necessarily discriminate on location, whether joints or in the middle of a panel. But that's the most likely cause of it. We have no reason to believe that it was a constructability issue or the way it was constructed, anything like that, to give us pause on the quality of concrete that was put in.
Okay,
So the corners that all broke off, what are we gonna do about it?
So we went out last week and walked the sidewalk again. I didn't see any corners that were broken off there. When we did the warranty inspection, there were cracks along the corners. And they were either sealed or the panel itself was saw cut and then the broken portion was removed and replaced with fresh concrete.
Okay, so the pictures that you gave us at the meeting, those corners have all been replaced?
Correct. So the pictures I gave you at the meeting, that was the warranty punch list. Those were the issues that we noted when we walked it in October, and all of it has been addressed.
Awesome.
There are quite a few filler spots, even one's pretty wide. What happened on that filler breaks down, or what's the lifespan of that filler? That's a pretty wide gap.
So the red clay, is that what you're asking about, the sand red clay? Sarah?
No, I'm talking about the white filler, it's in like, I'm gonna call it caulk, what's the usage being? It's filling where there's gaps of concrete that have moved or bad concrete. If there's some some pretty good stuff. Big. So I'm like, okay, if you look at Clever, we have repaired it, and then now that repair is just moves, and then we've got unevenness. So
So are you talking about at the joints where they went in and filled in?
and then there's one that's even straight. I mean, it's like that wide. I'm like, what the heck happened here?
So if it was filled with any kind of caulk, so some of them, if it's wider, it might look a little bit different because they had saw cut and moved and replaced it. So it's a year newer concrete, so it might look a little bit brighter, a little wider, but it's true concrete that they put in there, especially close to the MISD driveways. Those were where it tied into the road. We noticed some issues starting to form, so they saw cut and took a piece out and then report a full fresh.
But all the cracks that were sealed, so I mean, they were, small cracks, and then they did a couple inch wide strip of sealant on top.
Mhm.
We're not, they didn't go in and fill in a, inch wide joint with sealant. They were more hairline, smaller cracks that were then put a wide seam. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah, back to my original question, what's the lifespan on this? That caulking, that sealant, we only do this every 6 months or every 10 years?
It just kind of depends. It's not going to be an every 6 months thing. I think it's going to depend on weather. It could last up to 10 years. It could. I don't have a clear answer for you, but it's good quality caulk that they put on.
We can get that rigged.
I can get.
I was just kidding.
Yeah, I'll have that for you.
Clever is a thorn in our side because it's something we should be repairing constantly. I don't want this to be another line item that we have to repair constantly.
Agreed. Yeah, and of course, like I mentioned a couple weeks ago, we want this to be a good product for y'all. We feel like it has held up very well over what was a very harsh summer. It's telling for a lot of concrete, but I'll bring that back tomorrow.
Cool.
Any others?
Is there any other information that y'all want me to have ready for tomorrow?
We'll find out tomorrow.
I'd rather find out today.
All right,
Good.
everybody good?
Yes.
Going to item 3, discuss the development of a policy for open records request submitted by city council members.
So we just need some guidance on this one. We obviously have an open records request process, but we don't have a policy in place for when you files one. We don't have any funding for it. So we just need some guidance on how you want us to process these when a city council member files an open records request.
What's it cost now?
I'm sorry?
How much do they cost?
Well, it depends. It's if the computer techs have to get involved, which in this case they did, so it was pretty expensive. It was $1,000. So it just depends on what the request is.
Okay.
If it's something we can pull, then we'll pull it. If it's emails or documents or something that over the span of a couple of years, then we're going to kick to our IT folks.
So we need to put it in our budget as a line item for a certain amount
Yeah, if you guys want to, if you want to create to fund these requests, then yes, I'll have to go back with amendments to the budget and we'll have to fund it with some other.
Well, my thing is we fund it to a point. But if it gets, you know, ridiculous, it's on there.
Yeah.
Like any other private citizen.
So would be one, in this case, I think we all know who, it was me, but we didn't go by the state. If the government body estimates the charges to exceed $40, the government body is required to provide a requester with a written itemized statement of estimated charges before work is undertaken. That wasn't done, and then I had to ask for it twice. And
Yeah, that was my fault. I
and
told you the
so
process.
if I hadn't had to ask for it twice, there would have been, not have been as much. And then it also showed, it's all about prairie and how we all didn't know what we were getting into and we were misled. I'm putting over $1 million, so like we're talking about thousands. And we should be more upset about the million.
Right, but here's the thing, damage was done, so it doesn't matter who did what or who said what. We're stuck with what we got. So digging back and pointing fingers does absolutely no
We're
good.
just giving some insight and back history. But at the same time, we didn't follow the state rules and how can you expect somebody to pay? We should be doing,
Yeah, why don't we,
Well, that's the thing,
why don't we
though.
need
Here's
to
the
help the
deal. If
request
you're-
in the
here's-
city when we got one from the state?
If you're a private citizen and you walk in here and you want that done, then you pay for it.
I don't know why the city council would be exempt from anything other than the normal person.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's true. But on the other hand, you know, it was not ever the
All right, just go one at a time, please. Carol?
The law says you have to be notified of the amount that you owe. And if I ask for an open records and I am told that I owe $50 and I don't want to pay that $50, then I tell them I don't want it, or I wait until the days are gone by that the law says, and they don't do the open records. So, yes, I think city council should be responsible to pay for their open records. But I think it should be documented that how much you owe, just like everybody else.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that was my fault. I just thought I told you the process, and I work, the council members.
I saw a line item in the finance report that talks about open records. So
If that's open records.
why don't we already
records
have
management.
that? No, there's records management, and then the next one was open records. And it had some initials beside it, and I don't know what those initials
Okay. well, I'll take a look.
are. FO something?
So I'm not against us paying for some, but when it's just absorbent, then
Well, you don't
no.
You don't have to spend that money up front until that person tells you they want those records.
that's what the estimate is. It says this is going to be this labor intensive and here's your estimate.
Yeah, it's an estimate,
Right.
but I don't know because I only dealt with paper. And if I had to give someone 50 pieces of paper, there's a certain amount that they get free. Then I had to tell them what they owe. I don't know what happens now when y'all are on the cloud and y'all are focused. I don't know
No one understands the question.
the technology part of it now. So do you have to go to those people ahead of time?
You talking about our IT folks?
I guess.
Yeah, when we get a records request, and if it's asking for emails from the past year from a certain
Right.
person or people, then yeah, we don't have the capability to search that. So we would have to have them do it. Of course, they're a consultant, they're probably firm, they're going to charge us for that.
But do they tell you what they're going to charge you?
Yes, I'm telling you, I dropped the ball on that by telling Nikki to go ahead and process it because it came from the council member. So that's on me. But really what I'm asking right now is how do you guys want to go moving forward? How do you want to handle this? And if we want to have a fund for open records requests, then we can do that and fund it at a certain level. That way,
No.
we've got something to pull it from. If you want to have the
Why would
city
you
pay
do that?
for, well, if you want to have the city pay for requests by council, you're a
No.
city official, so
No, no.
it's up to you.
I don't.
No.
But if you don't want to do that, then we'll charge just like we would anybody else. That's all I'm asking.
But let me add, because I really am totally unaware of really what happened. Here's the thing though, if I asked for something though, someone would actually give me, okay, Cheryl, if you want this, it's gonna cost you this much money. If I go someplace, if I go to Kroger and pick up a roast, I'd like to know how much before I get to the counter and how much it's gonna cost.
Yeah,
You would know that, you would know that how much it's gonna cost. Okay,
Yes.
that's all I'm concerned
yes,
about.
I think, like you said, we're required to give an estimate
Right.
before they incur those charges.
But I don't think
In
city
this
council
case,
should
that
be.
didn't happen, so moving forward, I just want to know how you guys want to handle these.
I don't think city council should be exempt.
I don't
We have we have a miscellaneous.
I'm
So
sorry.
if you had told me. I mean, I just, so funny, what I was thinking, we should like, between the first one, so then I can tell the parts, and that's not right either, that's it.
amendment to cover this
You
one?
should.
No.
100%,
But as far as having a line
First
item,
time I asked for it.
no. We do not need a budget item
Okay.
because we're gonna know ahead of time that we're gonna owe $1,000 and we're not gonna take it, so we don't need a line item to fund my open records,
Right.
Got it.
okay?
That all the input
Is that
you
what
need?
you
I'm clear.
asked?
That's what I'm asking.
So we're clear there? Any other questions? All right, so I have just a quick question, given what we've done with item one. That on the agenda is an escrow, so we don't have enough for that, is what, I mean, we don't have really enough to sit here and retool this for tomorrow, so that's my
Right,
question.
it's just, if you guys were dead set against that project, coming out of this workshop, you would not want to approve that escrow agreement. If you think there's daylight somewhere where this thing can move forward, that's exactly what this is. So this escrow account is gonna fund first the feasibility study. That's where these guys are gonna look at the capacities, the thoroughfare plans, what variances that they need. That gets us, that's really the fact finding part, but we didn't want to, just give you that and say, hey, start the fact finding.
It is on them too. I mean, if they, based on y'all's feedback tonight, they might want to, take another couple weeks, see if they can get that land plan before they spend the
But
money.
that's not something we can do between now and tomorrow, or say this is not ready to be even discussed, so they don't come up here and we hear the same.
Yeah, so tomorrow it's a consent agenda for approval of the agreement and release for the study. The way that the agreements are written, they're supposed to be funded within 10 days of approval. So either you can approve it, subject to them submitting all the documentation. So nothing starts until the check is cashed. And we don't even set it up as a building number until we hear that the money
But
is.
again, to reiterate, I agree with what Dave is saying, there's no sense in even hearing about blah, blah, blah escrow, when clearly we don't even have enough to say this is a viable option going forward, and why spend the extra 30 minutes? That's just my point.
Right, and there's a lot of changes.
There you go.
Changing their land plan, they're talking about moving roads and the thoroughfare and lot size.
There's a lot to be done.
Not a whole lot on that plan that's going to be the same.
All right, anything else?
If that's the general consensus, I can communicate that.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
The whole thing is, that's for Christmas.
I said, we're not going to get some timelines to purchase the property, but
Because the plan they gave us
there's a
now,
couple of times when
it's not
we
gonna,
have to work in
but
cases.
I'm not going to build it.
Yeah, well, yeah, so, but I don't want them to apply that pressure on us.
No, but that's, we should follow up with this tomorrow. Are you also planning to do a feasibility study? At least put it on that, because if they want to run a feasibility study, they approve it. And then they change it all, revise the feasibility study.
Okay, so ask everybody else.
Yes.
Sure.
Everybody good with what we're saying?
Wait,
So that don't want to see the assholes either, like we said.
So it's for agenda item 1,
right?
I'm sorry?
to pass the escrow agreement. Is everybody okay with them coming back with them building there? That's the big
Yes.
question. Is everybody okay with them
Yes.
building there?
Yes.
As long as
You're
it's
not-
not what they just showed us.
Yeah, the location wasn't a problem.
Okay, so that's what the escrow is about.
Right.
It's the location.
Which comes later. leave it.
So we do,
We'll leave it.
let's leave it till tomorrow. Everybody agree?
And they walk out of here knowing that that land plan, there's a whole lot of stuff that they got to do different.
They have to
Yeah.
worry about that.
Before they come back.
Yeah, I'm not against the building, but just not that.
Yeah, what we'll do in the morning is we'll reach out and confirm that there's some way to move forward with the feasibility study. And if they say, no, we want to put this on the shelf, then we'll tell you that before or staff will tell you that before the
Because
agenda.
they did give me the signed agreement, so,
I take
you know,
that.
on the way out, so I think they're ready to move forward, even with the conversation here, understand there's a lot of changes that they need to work on before y'all find something that you like.
But the entrance, though, I didn't quite understand that the entrance is going to be on that county road, not the city road.
Right. I live like ultimately two, the main one on the county road by tennis courts, the secondary one on Old Fannersville between the.
The second, but I like what she said, it was not, what she said, it was not,
Not a pretty one either.
wasn't real pretty.
Yeah.
That trailer park's not that pretty.
All right, anything else? If not, being a workshop, I'll need a motion. So it is 7:10 and we are adjourned.
I'll let you-
All right.
Thank you for your